These are Captain Falcon's nipples. Wait, no, Awesome Sauce already did this. Is this against TOS? Can I get banned for showing this? Okay, redo. Hey, here's a fun fact. Captain Falcon isn't just a Smash Bros veteran, he is the Smash Bros veteran. He was actually the first fighter ever created in this universe, since his movesets and body structure were based off the unfinished Dragon King the fighting game developed by Sakurai and Iwata long before Smash even became a thing. So, yeah, that's cool. Anyway, since Captain Falcon is the OG, sometimes it feels like if you're not rooting for him, you're in the vocal minority. I often find myself in a situation where maybe one of my favorite players is on the stream, or a low-tier hero is on a crazy run, or a huge upset is about to go down, yet I find myself wanting the Falcon player to win regardless because he's just so hype. Look, Mango may have the USA chance, Amsa may have you rooting for a weird dinosaur, and Zane or Cody may be straight up winning everything under the sun. But I promise you, there is no character in Super Smash Bros. Melee who can hold a candle to the excitement that a Captain Falcon brings to the table. And at the crux of a vast majority of Falcon's accomplishments in Melee is this guy, Wizzrobe. He came up alongside a big three of Captain Falcon mains, but Wizzrobe was the one to take this character to heights never before seen in competitive Melee, becoming the first solo Captain Falcon player in over 14 years to have won a major tournament back in 2019. Oh, and now, 5 years later, in 2024, he just did it again. So, let's talk about it.
Well, my first name's Justin, my tag is Wizzrobe, and I'm from Central Florida.
Okay, look, so there exists only a handful of Captain Falcon players at the tippy top of competitive Melee. For a long period of time, it was a quote-unquote big three, Wizzrobe, S2J, and None, who all seem to encompass a different approach to the character. Nowadays, we have players like Salt in the mix, who's knocking on the door of the top 10, but as it stands, Wizzrobe is still the only active solo Captain Falcon player who has been able to crack that top 10. Now, all the Falcons have seemingly had their moments in the sun. None had this crazy, in my opinion, underappreciated period of time during the online era where he actually looked unstoppable. S2J has made some of the craziest upsets with this character ever and became immortalized for launching Melee's infamous chair movement. And Salt even started making big waves just this year with her first major top 8 appearances at back-to-back events. But Wizzy is still, in my opinion, far and away the most legendary Captain Falcon to ever compete in Melee. He's currently the highest ranked Captain Falcon player on the 2023 rankings at number 9, as well as the highest ranked Captain Falcon main in Melee history with a second on 2019 summer rankings. And that's also including SSBM's retro rank, by the way. Isaiah only peaked at number 3 in the world as a Falcon main at the very beginning of Melee's competitive history from 2001 to 2003, as well as in 2005. On that same retro rank, S2J made it to top 10 in the world in 2011, but since then, not a single Captain Falcon player has come close to Wizzrobe's achievements. He was the first Captain Falcon main to win a major in over 14 years at Smash and Splash 5, which, by the way, he also made top 8 in the Ultimate bracket of that same tournament, which also gives him the record of the lowest seed to place within top 8 at both an Ultimate Major and a Melee Super Major. He's extremely goated at Smash 64, known as one of the best Yoshi players in the world, and he was also known as one of the best Sonic mains in Project M during his short tenure there. Oh yeah, and he was also like a literal child when he started taking wins over gods of the game like Hungrybox.
I beat Hungrybox for the first time ever at like a random Florida local at his house. Like they were called Wattos. Or that's what he called them, like Watto, it stood for something. And honestly, that's probably my big win, even anywhere remotely close of that caliber.
Now, there isn't really much of a question that Falcon is a good character, especially in current Melee, so I'm not going to delve too deeply into that. But the big question I'm sure most of you, especially those who may not know all that much about Melee's history, may be asking is, why did it take so long for Falcon to start seeing major placements? Yeah, I mean, the character was making top 8s for a while, but there was this almost foretold prophecy that a Captain Falcon would never be able to win a major again after Isaiah. Why is that? He's got incredible normals, incredible speed, relatively easy punishes off of a grab or single hit. His only real drawbacks are like not having a projectile, being a favorable weight to get comboed, and maybe having a predictable recovery. but clearly that hasn't mattered all too much for the champions of this character. But like most Melee characters, Falcon players can come in so many different shapes and sizes with varying skills and drawbacks that at times it almost makes it seem like some of these players are playing entirely different characters. Of the big Falcon players out there, we have Wizzrobe and S2J almost on opposite sides of the spectrum. Wizzrobe is way back here, a reserved, defensive, and optimized playstyle which seems to emphasize substance over style. S2J and None seem to cover the other end of the spectrum, wild, fast-paced, and aggressive with an emphasis on style over substance. And in Wizzy's opinion, Salt seems to fall almost somewhere in the middle, maybe even closer to Wizzrobe's more optimized outlook on the game with a veil of speed that disguises like S2J or None.
I feel like she's kind of like in between S2J and me. Like I think she's actually closer to me personally. Like I think maybe some specific things she does is more like None, but I think overall, because when I watch her Falcon, she does more like quote-unquote correct, like bread and butter things. I feel like None and S2J go for more like crazier options, but I still feel like for the vast majority, she kind of, like she definitely has her own ideas, and like right now when I watch the Falcons, it's most beneficial for me to watch Salt just because she's newer and she has new ideas. I've watched like hundreds of videos of like S2J and None, and like when I watch a new one, I'm lucky if I find like one new thing that I'm not used to. A new thing in terms of like, oh, that caught me off guard, because I like know how they play after watching for so many years. But Salt is like better for me to watch. It's probably for everyone to watch right now as a Falcon in terms of new ideas, because she'll have some of her own stuff. I had a conversation with Gatsu a while ago. Like Gatsu is like, I don't even know what she does. Like I can't like why is she good? Like I don't really know. She like dash dances, she grabs, she hits them. Like I like what is going on? So I think I don't know. It's that's interesting to me.
But what I think really separates Wizzrobe from these other heavy hitters though is in how good he is at matchups that were historically underdeveloped, like Jigglypuff. Having to be in the same region as Hungrybox probably makes or breaks you as a player, but fortunately Wizzy actually enjoyed playing that matchup and took it to such a degree that he's actually pretty favored against Hungrybox over the last several years of them playing.
I found it fun. I used to think about the matchup a lot. Like I cared about the matchup, I cared about getting good at it, I thought it was fun to play. I didn't share the sentiment like, oh, it's Jigglypuff, this is a boring matchup. Like I always thought it was fun, and I think the fact that there wasn't a lot of attention put on it by Falcon mains made me probably even more interested, because I'm like, oh, I wonder like what you could really do in this matchup if you really try and grind it out, understand what can be done. Like, you know, I feel like this could be pushed way further than current.
Okay, so let's get into CEO. Taking place on June 28th to 30th over in Daytona Beach, Florida, the CEO series has historically focused mainly on more traditional fighting games, but it also ran a Melee bracket since 2010, and 2024's edition brought in 158 entrants.
When it comes to that kind of tournament, like if you're gonna study the players who are going, there's only like a handful you really need to study, as opposed to, you know, like a normal super major where there's like 20 different insane players. You could like, you know, it's kind of hard to prepare for everyone, but at a tournament with this, I knew it was like, okay, Hungrybox, Jmook, Moth was going, Panda was going, and then like kind of aside from them, I didn't really need to like hard focus on anyone.
Wizzy thought that a smaller-ish tournament like this could be a benefit, since he only needed to study for a handful of matchups based on who he was expecting to play, but here's a quick refresher on his bracket. In top 32, Wizzrobe qualified for top 8 with a 3-0 win over Pog Epic Gamer, and was then sent to losers by Hungrybox off a 3-1 in winners semis before beating Moth 3-1, Jmook 3-0, and Panda 3-2 to make it into grands. He then beat Hungrybox in 2 sets, first 3-2, then 3-1 to take CEO 2024.
If I had a tournament where winners, I have to fight Mango. If I beat Mango, I gotta fight Plup. Like that's gonna be a very... I think these days it's doable to. I don't think you really need bracket luck these days. As of right now, at least my current opinion is like I don't think Falcon needs like a perfect bracket to win like a super major. I think you can win a super major with just about anybody in your path right now.
Now, this is not to diminish Wizzy's accomplishment at all, but I do think his mention of dodging players like Mango and Plup is very self-aware. Those two in particular have had, quite frankly, brutal head-to-heads against Wizzy over the years, with Plup sporting a lifetime 23-3 set record against Wizzy and Mango a 24-1 set record. I think fortunately for Wizzy, he did dodge both of these bracket demons at a tournament like Tipped Off 15, where Mango was able to take home his first big major win in a while. So hey, drop a comment if you want to see a video on that event. Spoiler alert, I'm already making a video on that event, but just drop the comment anyway because algorithms and stuff. Woo! Oh, and speaking of working, if you made it this far into the video, it would really work out great if you made sure you were subscribed to the channel. I hate myself. I work really hard on these videos, and a lot of people watch them without ever realizing that they aren't subscribed. Many of these videos have hundreds of hours put into them. Hopefully you can tell that by how hard I work on them, and sometimes that effort is spread across multiple people. So if you want to help support me and help make more videos like these possible, I'd really appreciate it. If you did just subscribe, thank you, and get ready to work out this bracket with me. God, I gotta stop, because I would say Wizzy had a pretty solid bracket for CEO. Again, to only have to study a few matchups, including one against Hungrybox, an opponent Wizzrobe has historically looked very strong against, can be really valuable for a player who may operate a bit more optimal than the rest of the Falcons. And granted, he did get knocked into losers by Hungrybox, but a bunch of their sets have gone the full 5-game distance, so that really didn't concern me all that much for his prospects of taking this tournament. But let's first start with Wizzy versus Jmook instead. Falcon versus Sheik is historically a more difficult matchup for Captain Falcon. Now, I did say earlier that Falcon maybe has a predictable recovery, and Sheik is the character that maybe exploits this to a high degree. Edgeguards are absolutely brutal against this character, and the Sheik can almost Build-A-Bear an entire stock just by getting Falcon off stage a single time. Throw in, well, throws and tech chases, and a player really good at those, like Jmook, and that can also be a recipe for disaster anytime the Sheik gets to play around a knockdown or wake-up option. Sheik also just has, honestly, better buttons than Falcon, especially up close, so understanding how to close distance is huge in this matchup. Jmook and Wizzy in particular are an interesting pairing as well. Because Jmook was relatively new to seeing the top level and Wizzrobe traveled so infrequently over the last couple years, they really only had a few chances to play each other at major tournaments. In fact, with the exception of CEO last year, which went 3-1 in favor of Wizzy, the other two sets they've played lifetime, one at Ludwig Smash Invitational and one at the Big House 11, both went to Jmook and both went to Game 5. So this is admittedly one of Wizzrobe's better head-to-heads compared to a Sheik like Plup, who, like we mentioned before, Wizzy also acknowledges as a bit of a bracket demon for him at the moment.
I do kind of know how he plays a little bit better than like some of the other Sheiks. Like I know a couple of his habits. Our sets always are very close, but I always kind of knew in my head, like at least right now, if I have a set versus him where I just play well and everything goes my way, it could be a 3-0.
So even with perhaps a better player read on Jmook, the facets of the character matchup on paper still apply. To really super simplify things down a bit, Wizzrobe would like to 1. Reduce the number of times he gets knocked down, which often leads to a CC grab, 2. Play around edgeguard positions from the Sheik, and 3. Efficiently convert on grabs and edgeguards himself. Number 3 is possibly one of the biggest advancements Falcons have brought into this matchup. I spoke with Chef Rockman, probably the most prominent Falcon coach in Melee, and they have an encyclopedia of knowledge over on melee.cookbook.gg. In the Sheik section, you also have pretty impressive flowcharts for how to punish a Sheik off of a grab, including data on how to follow up based on what port you're in, yes that matters, and what DI your opponent goes for. Included here is also an edge guarding flowchart, which also isn't all that bad for Falcon either, by the way. Forcing the Sheik into using Vanish isn't as risky as it looks, since the Sheik just doesn't have enough drift to sink back into the stage or the ledge off of a fadeback, and if the Sheik lands on stage after they're up B, they're still put into a very long 30 frames of landing lag instead of the 4 you would get from the state called landfall special lag, so Falcon can get pretty free punishes when given this position. To quickly touch on points 1 and 2 though, the Falcons have developed a ton of defensive play, largely predicated around SDI up on Sheik jab reset. Setchi made a quick guide on the cookbook which discusses counterplay percents here, but as a very, very abridged version, from 0 to 24%, Falcon can SDI up, then wave land out. From 24 to 29, Falcon has to SDI up, then double jump away or try to wave land out without getting hit by the Sheik F tilt. And after 30%, you can just hold C-stick up to get ASDI out of Sheik's jab reset, which lets the Falcon wave land out in the appropriate direction. You can wave land in if the Sheik jabs close to dead zone the F tilt, or out if the jab is spaced to avoid the F tilt outright. And even if they double jab, Falcon can continue to hold ASDI up with just C-stick and then double jump away. There's other mix-ups like Raptor Boost and Falcon's own F tilt that I could get into, but once again, the cookbook is your friend here. Recovery is also huge. Again, very quickly, neutral/slight DI away on first F tilts are really important to remove Sheik's follow-up. Mixing up fastfall timings to get around things like a babysit bear or ensure Falcon's up B gets the hug also helps out a ton. And of course, making sure you hit your techs or leveraging platforms when appropriate as alternative means to land or edge cancel. What's more interesting to me is how Wizzy plays reversal situations that may appear uncharacteristically risky for a player like him. Check out this stock in game 1 as an example. Wizzy gets knocked down near the right ledge and inputs a slow getup, but Jmook misses his follow-up. Instead of challenging the space, Wizzrobe elects to run off stage and use rising back air to contest, but Jmook doesn't bite on the first attempt, so Wizzy goes for it again. This time Jmook finds the window and hits a dash attack, though I will say Wizzy did have a good look here in going for the immediate Raptor boost, since it basically resets Falcon on stage if he's in the corner, and it's quicker to move than just a dash back is. Regardless though, the dash attack pushes Wizzrobe off stage, and oftentimes, especially at this spacing, this is just enough for the Sheik to secure a stock. Jmook looks for the simple option, and one that was close to the same one Wizzy just presented a couple moments ago. Wave dash off into rising back air, which if connected, again easily takes the stock. But instead of trying to weave around the hit, Wizzy now chooses to challenge it, full drifting in and landing a stomp. Many have called this the Nun Stomp after Nun used it at Genesis 8 to steal away a Game 5 win and qualify for top 8 against Hungrybox, but this one is a little bit different. In Melee, a player is placed in a 40 frame lockout period anytime a jump is inputted, which prevents them from meteor canceling. But for characters with multiple jumps like Jigglypuff or Kirby, they have an automatic meteor cancel mechanic where all you have to do is just hold up and it will ignore the 40 frame lockout window. This only works on these characters if they've already used one of their double jumps though, which is why Hungrybox at Genesis wasn't able to use this. He inputted a grounded jump right before getting stomped. But across all characters, there also exists a second meteor cancel window, one for jump and one for up B, which are independent frame penalties. So in Hbox's case, yeah, there existed a perfect world where he could sing to grab the ledge, but it would have had to be pretty damn perfect. In Jmook's case, this position is pretty doomed from the start. If Jmook attempts a meteor cancel at 67% before the hit, he can get it after 8 frames of hits done, but he jumped 11 frames before the stomp connected, meaning he's still in the jump lockout window and his only out would be to up B instead. Even if he hits this as early as this frame 8, like I said before, Wizzy's punishes off of Vanish on stage means he can probably find the stock anyway. Now, there does exist an interesting hypothetical where if Jmook meteor canceled with up B, he can probably maintain an advantage state since Wizzy needed to use his own up B way below the stage to hit the stomp, but that's not what happened here. Because Jmook is facing right after getting hit by the stomp though, there's no way for him to snap to the ledge, which would all but guarantee an edge guard here, so that does mean the hypothetical poof will hit Wizzy as he's recovering upwards, which therefore means Wizzy can tech and maybe air dodge back to the stage, but yeah, you get it. If both players play perfectly in this position though, both would survive with Jmook grabbing ledge and Wizzrobe air dodging back to stage, and from here, if Jmook is fast enough, he can keep the pressure on. But regardless though, I picked this clip largely because I think it's intriguing from a macro level. Wizzrobe is known as this highly optimized machine of a player who always makes the most optimal decision for his character. But this stomp is quite literally a page out of Nun's book, a player who is known for being wild, crazy, and at times not optimal. To have a player like Wizzy throw that into his bag of tricks is really, really cool to me, and for what it's worth, he didn't attempt it against Jmook for the rest of the set. And even on the other side, it's possible a crazy, not in-system decision like that stomp dissuaded Jmook from trying that positioning again for at least a little while, since he only goes for that wave dash back rising bear one other time all the way in game 3. That of course is a huge hypothetical, but I think the point still stands. Wizzrobe plays for his keys to success against Sheik to a T, until he thinks there's an opportunity to really throw a wrench into things. It's an expansion on that player read he mentioned in our interview, and I think it worked out to wonderful effect here. Last one I want to highlight before we talk about Hbox is the final stock of the final game. Now, a lot of this clip is predicated on the fact that the FOD platform messed up Jmook's sure hit dash attack, and I don't want that to be the main takeaway here. Wizzy's able to connect a pair of nairs, which ultimately leads to the knockdown that wins him the set, and I think what makes this ending so interesting, at least to me, is in how quickly Wizzy just snaps back to his usual optimal self. Again, number 3 on that list, efficiently convert on grabs and edge guards. Just like how Sheik getting a knockdown on Falcon often leads to CC grab, the reverse is also true. I assume a player of Wizzrobe's caliber knows his knockdown percents, but the second hit of Falcon's nair against a Sheik that doesn't CC it knocks down as early as 27%. So for Falcon to clip Jmook out of the sky on the second one all but guarantees this sequence. From there, it's pretty straightforward for Wizzrobe. CC the getup attack, then reference the flowchart. Wizzy is port 4 and Jmook is at 42%, so you up throw because that's weight independent, meaning the throw animation is the same for all characters. Jmook DIs in, so short hop up air converts into a combo or tech chase, and then he DIs that hit out, which lets Wizzy dash short hop up air for a second hit, and all of this easily links into a knee to close out a massive 3-0 victory.
Jmook fighting for his tournament life.
Yeah, last stock, 0% apiece on game 3, where Jmook needs to win this in order to be able to stay in the tournament.
Uh-oh.
Oh, the
Gets stuck on the platform.
Love
Yep.
the dash attack.
Get up attack. Not great. Up
Yeah,
there.
and
It's a knee.
that's going to do it, and Wizzrobe takes it 3-0 over Jmook.
Okay, now let's talk about the elephant in the room. So, like I said before, of all the Falcons, Wizzrobe has definitely done the most work in developing this matchup, so much so that I would say he's probably favored against HBox at this point. Before CEO 2024, he got 3-0s on HBox at Genesis X and CEO 2023, and lost in close game 5s in 2022 at LSI and Lost Tech City. But even if you go back to 2021, Wizzrobe was 6-1 in sets against the box, so yeah, he's good against Puff. Once again, Chef Rockman and the Cookbook are great resources to get into the mind of Wizzy, especially in such a practice matchup like this, so I hit him up for a few quick notes. One of the big things he pointed out to me is in how Wizzy creates mix-ups specifically off of jab. What he does after jab, when he double jabs, or when he goes for grab are all really important decisions against Jigglypuff because Jigglypuff can low profile pretty much all of that off of crouch, so it introduces yet another mix-up on top of all of it where we often see Falcons go for stomp to beat the crouch. Falcon can go for short or full hop up air after jab 1 as a double jump read or even a combo starter if the Puff doesn't double jump, which basically creates another 50-50 on whether or not the Puff will spend a jump. And the jab can also confirm to grab, which you already know. Chef says Wizzy uses jab, grab, and double jab better than almost any other Falcon in the game across most matchups in Melee. This also goes without saying that while Wizzrobe is quite good in this matchup, it can still be difficult for Falcon on paper. Pretty much the entire cast edgeguards Falcon rather easily, but this is amplified against Puff with her great aerial mobility, and the Falcon can have a hard time challenging a Puff that's off stage. So you're usually left securing stocks off of those mix-ups with the aforementioned leading jabs, grabs, or stomps. Down throw knee in particular is such a saving grace for Falcon in this matchup with potential to kill, like ludicrously early depending on the stage and positioning. HBox had even made a video a while back saying the Puff can attempt to win a frame battle with rest, although I don't see him go for this too often nowadays, and in the early days of this player matchup, Wizzrobe would honestly play a bit campy. He used to chill on top platform for stages that had one and would mix up stomp and up air to win the vertical game. He even mentions how his experience with Smash 64 might have helped him out in matchups like these, where he's treating every neutral interaction as an opportunity to touch of death.
Yeah, I agree. I definitely think a lot of 64 ideas came into play. I think the biggest one being like the platform camping thing, but even though I don't use it as much now, I think of like what ways I could still incorporate like the platform play, because you know, you only play on Dreamland in 64, so there's like a lot of emphasis on like how you play with the platforms.
The first clip I want to highlight here is the last game before the Grands reset. Wizzy falls to his final stock here off of a rather unfortunate Phantom hit Nair 2 trading with HBox's fair, but Puff is still at a good enough percent where Wizzy can get down throw dash up air with plenty of juice to clean up the stock. On last stock though, we see that jab Chef Rockman mentioned coming into play a few times. Wizzy falls in with a bear that gets power shielded but hits a turnaround jab to confirm a grab. He tries it again after a weak hit knee to cover his tracks in case HBox CCs that, and then gets another jab on a drift in from HBox to convert into another grab. Falling up air on the back of Puff shield is perfect positioning in this matchup and nets yet another jab, and he tries to connect a jab a couple more times to interrupt aerial approaches until finally he gets to play the mix-up that wins him the set. And guys, this is so incredibly simple, but all it took was jabbing a few times in a row after the late aerial to get HBox to throw up his shield, even for just a brief moment. Wizzy introduces the empty hop now, right at the finish line, to get the turnaround grab out in time before HBox's fair hitbox, and after a double pommel for good measure, that is plenty of percent to take the stock with a down throw knee. And oh, by the way, worth mentioning, both Falcon Grab and Puff Fair are 7-frame startups, so Wizzy got this grab out a single frame before HBox's Fair became active. Again, mix-ups are the name of the game here, and this one is a great example of how an almost perceived overuse of the jab paved the way for Wizzy to throw in an empty hop to reset the bracket for him in a close game 5. And suffice it to say, Wizzy also had to work incredibly hard the game before, being down 2-1 in games and 3 stocks to 1, so that player preparation definitely paid its dividends. Another pretty nutty combo happens right after in game 1 of the reset. Now, this does look like your run-of-the-mill Wizzy 0 to death, but to get it against Puff is still very impressive, and how it starts is also an important note in the way of the conditioning that was set in the previous games. He opens with a nair that Hbox actually would have gotten hit by had he not gotten a triangle jump instead of a wave dash, but a Falcon standing right next to a Jigglypuff prompts yet another crouch input from the Puff to try to low profile, and the Puff jump squat will also dodge grabs in this case, which is why we see Hbox jump after pancaking a few times. Wizzy intercepts with a knee that reverses thanks to the drift from Hbox, and he's barely able to link that into a stomp, which puts Hbox into missed tech. From there, Wizzrobe is at 0, so it's pretty much just on him to hit the reaction tech chase grab to secure a close to 5-second 0 to death. The last play I want to go over is the final stock of the tournament, and it is arguably one of the most genius, cerebral, wrinkled brain sequences of decisions I've seen from a top player in 2024. This one was already covered by my friend Fraser, aka Melee Moments, so you can check that out in the cards and description, but I'll go over it quickly here. This starts with good DI on the jab reset rest, but that's not what we're here for. After making it to the ledge, Hbox still has a few frames before he wakes up from rest, but the problem is any left-facing down throw to knee, even if the knee reverses, will not kill Puff at this percent. The only out for Wizzy is to get a right-facing grab in order to position the knee closer to the right blast zone. A tight dashback grab just won't connect, and a loose dashback grab isn't fast enough since Hbox will wake up and can crouch it. Fraser even talks about how a pivot grab to the left of Hbox will still be 1 frame too slow in this exact situation, so he needs to get a pivot grab to the right of Hungrybox in order to get a true punish. Fortunately, Falcon, alongside a couple other characters, have the colloquial butt grab, which is a grab hitbox that extends slightly behind them, so if Wizzy enters pivot just a smidge sooner while still being practically on top of Hbox, he'll land the grab, be facing the right blast zone, and can easily send Hungrybox into it to win CEO 2024. And in case for whatever reason you thought this play wasn't insane, here's Zane, the current #1 ranked player, Cody, last year's #1 ranked player, Armada, one of the greatest players of all time, and Plup, owner of the Plup Club's reactions to this.
Oh, what a grab on the other. That was genius. I'm so sorry, that was genius. He got the pivot!
Dude, that grab was insane. What the fuck? He actually goes for it.
Did anyone see that turnaround grab? Holy shit!
Actually, one more thing. After I stopped my recording with Wizzy, we talked a bit more about this grab punish, and Wizzy told me he had like 3 different setups in his head for this situation, but the pivot butt grab was the only one he thought would work. So he told me he was glad to see so many players recognize 1, how insane this really was, and 2, that this was fully intentional.
He learned. He'd get out of there immediately.
Yeah.
Down throw.
This tech chase situation?
Strike!
No,
He's alive. He's alive. He's alive. Does he get a
Does
knee?
he get a punish?
Oh, the turnaround.
He got a turnaround. He got the knee.
It's
That's gonna be
done.
it.
Wizzrobe is such an impressive enigma to me. This guy hardly traveled to major events over the past few years, still managing to place highly or even win at some of them. Excluding online, he only went to 6 regional to major level events in 2021, 5 in 2022, and 5 in 2023, and he averaged a placement of 5th across those 3 years. That is truly insane, and he's already on par in terms of majors attended in 2024, which is really encouraging going into the back half of the year. Wizzy is simply excellent at maintaining that level of optimization with a character many considered, of course, a high tier, but perhaps difficult to win major tournaments with. Yeah, he still has his problem matchups, whether they're characters or players, but when it comes to Captain Falcon as a hype generator, I think Wizzrobe's results speak for themselves. This guy has and continues to be the record breaker, the prophecy fulfiller, and the best Captain Falcon player Melee has ever known. And I think that's something to be proud of.
Hey everyone, this is Wizzrobe. Thanks for watching and make sure you subscribe for more.
This channel is funded by my Patreon, and if you want to be a producer of the channel and help me be able to do this even more often, you can join over at the link in the description, and you'll gain access to some bonus content like the full recording I had with Wizzrobe, which you saw in this video. Thanks again to all of my patrons who make videos like these possible, especially Avishua Stein, Bobby Wasabi, Bold Italics, Erica's Cool, and NNG Esports. Thanks for watching. and for all the support on my recent videos. It's honestly made me really happy. Please like and subscribe if you like what you saw, and as always, there is much more on the way. We'll see you next time.